comment was posted on one of my videos, the one about Joe Biden's troubles in February of 2020. And the person mentioned Elizabeth Warren as a possible strong candidate based on her natal Taurus moon and the fact that there is a stellium of planets in Capricorn supporting that moon, notably Jupiter. And you see here that her moon is shown for near 18 degrees Taurus. This is a noon chart, but it's not, or rather 1 p.m. It's not an accurate time. Her time is unknown, and so her moon is somewhere between 11 plus Taurus and 23 and a half Taurus. Clearly, in terms of her viability, her fortune, it would be much better for her to be born late in the day, as late as possible, as a matter of fact, so that this moon could connect with the transiting Capricorn planets as they move toward the election. So that definitely would make a strong case. On the other hand, those planets are also opposite her Cancer planets, which isn't so good. And some people have mentioned that her Jupiter being in early Aquarius correlates with where it will be in December post-election, thus making it a very strong placement. This isn't untrue. I would tend to agree. Although I'm not so sure about her Jupiter being super strong. Others have mentioned as well that it's part of a yod, where you see it in conjunct her Uranus Sun, and likewise to her Saturn. Yods are made by planets in sextile, then connecting by 150 to the planet on the other end, in this case Jupiter. And this is called the finger of God, and does tend to correlate with people that achieve some notoriety in their life. However, I don't particularly like yods because I find inconjuncts to be very difficult aspects, and they don't necessarily help you. In fact, often they hurt you through injury, disease, and even death. So it's hardly the aspect that you want on a Jupiter return, and I would consider that a minus. And then I have to add that when I comment on politics, I do bring to bear at least 2 decades of constant political study, and so I have some pretty strong opinions about what is happening in the US system at the moment. And my sense is that at the moment the landscape is not working for Elizabeth Warren, mostly because I think she's a great public servant, but not an especially good politician. I think she made a tragic error when she made her views on Medicare for all so intensely public. And in fact, when she said what she said, which was back in the late fall of 2019, Saturn was just about to oppose Venus, and that's exactly when her numbers dropped dramatically and haven't recovered since. So that's one problem. It puts her in the progressive camp. And if you look at the numbers as they have been tallied late last year and into this year, you notice that her numbers added to Bernie's numbers are constantly in the 40s. And then when you add everyone else, Klobuchar, Buttigieg, Biden, and possibly now Bloomberg as well, they tally in the 50s, which is signaling that the Democratic Party is somewhere around 55-60% more centrist than progressive. So her chances drop dramatically on that account as well. Furthermore, I think there is likely to be I'm going to call it a thought undercurrent of sorts, which has voters thinking about what other voters are thinking, and there is a tremendous drive to get rid of Trump, and a perception that the overall electorate might not be for a woman president. I think this is probably a mistake, because I think a woman president would be absolutely wonderful for the country. But I do suspect that men and women, in fact, the polls say that women tend to think this way more, that they believe that a white male man is absolute kryptonite for Trump, and yet if it were a woman, it would be much harder. Whether this is true or not, in a sense, doesn't matter, because if voters think this way, they'll tend to vote this way. So all of this, to me, is not helpful for Elizabeth Warren, and I strongly suspect that she's not going to get the traction she's looking for, and will likely not be elected president or win the Democratic nomination either.